Are you stressed out by consumerism and materialism? Do you really want to break free from this cycle of buying and showing off things, but you find it difficult? Well, first, you need to understand the neuroscience behind our impulses. Money Arata. In particular, you need to understand the role of the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, dopamine, and serotonin in the impulse to buy in order to impress and have fun and seek a higher social status and all that emotion in the purchasing experience. We can also compare how we humans are different from other animals in how we consume. We can also find clues on how to improve our behavior by observing certain societies that are less consumerist and happier than us. When you understand how your brain works, it will be much easier. So we'll go step by step to understanding all the emotions that lead you to consume and buy things that you don't need. Today, you will be taking concrete steps to take control of your life, and you can break free from consumerism and materialism and find healthier, more satisfying activities that will truly make you happy. Now, please note this material is not financial advice. Please read the full disclaimer before continuing. Materialism is linked to the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, dopamine, and serotonin. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to be motivated by this need to acquire material possessions and wealth? Materialism is linked to activity in certain regions of the brain and also the release of certain neurotransmitters. Let's focus on four elements: the prefrontal cortex, amygdala, dopamine, and serotonin. In our Intelligence Arata Academy course, you'll do all the interactive activities that you need to really understand how your brain works. And also use the neuroscience to have a better life. You can visit everything at arata.se/intelligence so you can unlock your first lesson right now. The prefrontal cortex is an area of the brain that is involved in decision-making and the control of your impulses. Low activity in the prefrontal cortex can lead to impulsive buying and overconsumption. This means that when people have less activity in this part of the brain, they're more likely to buy things that they don't need. And they don't have the ability to resist those impulses. Now, the amygdala is an area of the brain that deals with emotional processing. When you have more activity in this area of the brain, you can be more sensitive to emotions, such as envy and greed, and these can lead to a greater desire to acquire material possessions and wealth. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for pleasure and reward. So when dopamine is released in the brain, it is associated with feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. And this can lead to a desire to pursue material possessions and more wealth in order to keep experiencing all those feelings. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for regulating your mood. Low levels of serotonin can contribute to feelings of dissatisfaction and a desire for more material possessions. So low levels of serotonin can also lead to impulsive behaviors and a need for immediate gratification. It is fascinating to think about how our brain, or hormones that are released, can influence our behavior, our desires. It is important to be aware of these possible influences because deep down we're living beings. We have similar survival mechanisms to other animals. The essence of materialism is that possessions help us to survive and thrive. In the case of human beings, consumerism even helps us to define our identity. We're not so unique, because even animals can display materialistic behavior. Although it is not exactly the same as we humans understand materialism, it has been observed that animals collect, accumulate, and even defend their resources as a means of survival and reproduction. Bees collect nectar and pollen to feed their colonies, and they fiercely protect their hives from strangers. Squirrels bury nuts and seeds to store their food for the winter months. Ravens have been seen using tools to obtain resources and accumulate food for later use. Chimpanzees have been seen collecting and accumulating nuts, often defending their food reserves from other chimpanzees. This behavior might be motivated by a need to ensure access to a reliable food source, especially during periods of food scarcity. And there is another interesting example with bowerbirds. These exotic birds are known for their elaborate courtship rituals, decorating their nests with colorful objects like shells and flowers and feathers. In this case, it is no longer about the survival properties of food. The objects here are used as a necessary resource for having sex and reproducing. So whether it is nectar, nuts, or colorful objects, it is very clear that animals value certain resources and they're willing to make great efforts to acquire and protect them. So their behavior could, in a certain way, be considered as a form of materialism. But it's very important to remember that there is more to materialism than just the acquisition of resources. We humans have very complex social dynamics and many layers of meaning that are associated with our possessions. Our material objects can have some symbolic value. They can be used to express status and our identity, as well as to convey messages and emotions. For example, someone might buy a luxury car to show their wealth. They might buy a present for a loved one to show their appreciation, their affection. These possessions can also be used to convey messages and social values, such as a political statement or an expression of a religious faith. It is not just about money. You may, for example, choose to boycott a company because you disagree with their values. Maybe you even choose to pay a higher price for goods and services of another company that you really align with in terms of values. A $10 gift that has been carefully chosen, a thought-out gift, can be more valuable and appreciated more than simply giving someone a $20 bill or a gift card. So although animals may share some of the same behaviors as humans, the underlying motivations and the meanings behind these behaviors are pretty different. Animals are just trying to survive and reproduce. We humans use material objects for a variety of reasons, including partially defining who we are in the world. So it is important to remember that materialism is a complex subject. Although the way humans and animals express materialism might be different, we both value resources. We're willing to make great efforts to acquire and protect them. So let's now focus on the different possibilities that we as humans can exist by examining different types of societies throughout time and space. Consumption has been present since the ancient time. It's part of our human nature to value material possessions. And we can see evidence of that in the Sumerian civilization, which flourished in the modern-day Iraq around 4000 BC. The Sumerians valued gold, silver, and other precious metals as symbols of wealth and power, and they developed an advanced trading system. The ancient Egyptians, they also attached great importance to material possessions and wealth, and the pharaohs and other members of the elite were buried with elaborate tombs full of gold, jewelry, and other valuable objects. The ancient Greeks also valued material possessions and wealth. Their philosophy of hedonism maintained that pleasure and the pursuit of material wealth were highest goals in life. The Romans also valued material possessions and wealth, and they had a highly stratified society where material possessions were seen as a way to display their status, their social position. Consumerism has been around for thousands of years. It's not going anywhere soon. We have become increasingly dependent on material possessions to define our identity, our place in society. But is this really the best way to find happiness, to have a fulfilled life? The human brain has limits, and so it uses materialism to live better in complex societies. You might be wondering, why is it that all these ancient civilizations showed materialism? We usually think of materialism and consumerism as something from our modern society, right? But there is a logical explanation for this. In order for societies to be able to interact in complex structures, you need to have meaning. And the human brain has limits on how many people it can remember, how many people we can process. The Dunbar number concept that was developed by anthropologist Robin Dunbar suggests that the size of a stable social group tends to be limited to around 150 individuals. To organize ourselves in larger groups, we began to create shortcuts, rules of thumb, heuristics that can tell us quickly who is who. This is how objects begin to give meaning to what we do and who we are. Objects and possessions, such as jewelry, clothing, they can all be used as symbols to represent social status and economic wealth. This helps to differentiate individuals within a larger group and create a sense of belonging and identity. But it's not just about material goods. Symbolic language and rituals and traditions that can all be used to create meaning and foster social cohesion. So the reason why I showed you all these different examples of ancient civilizations is to help you to accept the fact that the tendency towards materialism is a natural tendency. And there is nothing wrong with that. We humans are programmed to be this way. The search for material wealth has been part of human nature for millennia. But is this really the way that we can try to find some happiness? How do we decide what is truly valuable, what is just a passing trend? What are the consequences of a consumer-driven society on our mental health? We need to start asking these difficult questions and re-examine the value that we place on material things. That's why in the next episode of the Money Arata series, we'll see how different societies are currently dealing with materialism in a healthier way. It is important to recognize the role of the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, dopamine, and serotonin in our impulsive behavior. By understanding the neuroscience behind our desires, we can take control, we can shift our focus from material possessions to more meaningful aspects of life. By having an understanding of the limitations of our own brain, such as the idea of the Dunbar number, we can start to make decisions that bring us closer to a life with meaning and purpose. You can join us for a masterclass on intelligence to learn more about this process and how to make it work for you, for your best interests. You can visit the link arata.se/intelligence. Getting to know how your brain works is the most important thing that you can do today.